Hey guys, welcome back to Almost Ahead of the Curve. This is Gatsu. With me, as always, is the wonderful Leah slash Arlaria.
Hello.
And believe it or not, we actually have a guest somehow. I don't
Hello.
know. I have no idea if Leah drugged you or what, but welcome to the show, Mageski. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Well, I am completely sober. Definitely not drinking from BlizzCon still. Still survived. Didn't go to
Week later.
BlizzCon, which is why I wasn't drinking.
I mean,
I didn't go to BlizzCon either, but yes. For anybody who doesn't know me, which is probably 99.9% of the WoW community, I go by Mageski. I've been playing Mage since roughly Wrath-ish ICC. I played Alliance and then Horde and then Alliance again. I tend to post on Battle.net a lot. Not so much recently, but a lot of really sad posting on BNet forums. But I'm in their retirement home along with Arlaria,
that's me.
and so happy to be here and can talk about some things and stuff.
Yeah, we're only a week late, almost from when I
It's
said.
not.
Week and a half from BlizzCon, so. I mean, pretty on point for soon TM, as Blizzard usually calls soon.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption that when you were complaining on the Mage forums and things like that, you were complaining about Blink, right?
I mean, Blink is a thing that all mages complain about. Most of my BNet posting has been trying to get really, really bad posts off of the forums and just trying to keep an eye on people and make sure that the bad advice gets squashed as quick as possible.
That's a good thing.
Although blinking backwards is totally a cool mechanic.
Makes me feel like Tracer when I do that. And I'm horrible at Tracer, so it'd be really much, much worse in WoW, for
Or a
sure.
hunter.
Oh, God. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
The topic
disengage
at
is kind of like a backwards blink, but you mean to do it.
exactly. So, BlizzCon came in week, guys.
Yeah,
Ooh, we learned
I used
things.
my virtual ticket, unlike some of us.
I went. It was wonderful. Got to meet up with guildies. Got to drink. Got to meet up with more guildies and got to drink more. And then Ari bought our drinks.
Oh, wow. That's very
Yeah.
generous of him.
so is he in debt now?
No. Surprisingly, we did not drink him into debt. So,
Well,
That's
as
good.
far as you know, anyway.
minor victories. But yeah, what'd you guys think of BlizzCon as a whole? Like, just general thoughts.
So let's do the thing where if you could sum up BlizzCon in one word this year, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of BlizzCon this year?
Hogger.
That Hogger costume. It was so
That's it.
cool.
Honestly, of all of the cosplays I've ever seen at BlizzCon, all the competitions, that was by far the most on point, amazing, like technically challenging cosplay I've seen, and I'm really glad that person won first place because that was an amazingly well done costume. Not just because Hogger is such an iconic figure, but it was just done really, really well.
Absolutely agree.
I was just very happy that it wasn't just, someone who won purely because they picked Scantily Clad Night Elf 3 or something.
Yeah, exactly that too.
It was just that thing, that Hodger costume was so incredibly over the top.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was also a female doing that costume, right?
I have no idea. All I know is I saw a knoll and I was horrified.
I mean, I'm gonna look this up really quick while we're talking about it, but I'm pretty sure it was a woman doing it, which makes it extra special that it was, not the typical scantily clad, all that.
Most
Yeah.
definitely. Most definitely.
I know I went into BlizzCon like super hyped. Like there were so many things that we knew we were going to learn, and then things that just kind of showed up out of nowhere.
Yep.
Like the Overwatch cinematic was really really cool.
Yep. And honestly, part of one of the things that are kind of coming up ties into back in the day when I was first really at the beginning of end of Wrath, beginning of Cataclysm. I was starting to kind of outgrow the guild I was in, I decided that I was going to start my own guild, and Zul'Gurub was going away forever, quote unquote. And so in my head, I thought, well, I really wanted. I was playing Horde at the time. I really want to commemorate that, and I made a guild called ZG Forever. Like, let's remember this place for all time. And then almost immediately, Blizzard came back and said, no, we're gonna make a new max level Zul'Gurub.
Yeah.
But in general, I really felt like the point of that was that the Zandalari, who suddenly disappeared from Stranglethorn Vale, like, where did they go? Guess what? Hey, they're coming back.
Oh my god, was that a segue?
It is a segue to our first talking point about the new factions that are coming back in the next expansion.
Also, we're getting a new expansion. Did you guys know that?
It's something about bind to account, bound on a battle for Azeroth. That's the acronym.
Yeah, you see, people are saying, and I was watching a couple videos here this week because obviously some people are a little quicker at getting things out than we are. But, people are saying, just call it battle, BFA. When I think of BFA, I'm like, no, it just doesn't stick to nothing. It doesn't ring anything with me.
It's like when you talk about Wrath, you don't see, WOTK?
Yeah, no one says that. It's,
No, it's just Wrath.
It's a word.
I'm going to stick on this. That was a clean segue. I don't think we've ever had one of those.
Well, I'll try to see what I can do through the rest of this.
You see, to get a clean segue, you have to go to the segue dealer and ask for a new one. You can't get the used ones.
I get it.
So we found out.
I mean, you don't want to be George Bush and fall off your segue.
That would be embarrassing.
It would be embarrassing.
Much rather be like Job from Arrested Development, and just be a master of not hitting anything ever,
and being
getting
terrible at illusions.
So yeah,
they're not tricks; they're illusions.
One of the big things about the expansion is we learned that there's going to be 2 starting continents, which is pretty cool.
Yep, the Zandalari are back. Yes, I play Alliance, but at my core, there must always be a troll Mageski, which is why I maintain an alt.
And you can have a straight back.
Yes.
No more back problems.
And then we get the Kultiras, which again on the mage side of things, playing a mage, like I'm excited about that as well. It's going to be a really cool faction for the Alliance home zone.
I was actually very impressed with the character models they showed in Kultiras. Those different human models, they're much hardier. The heavy women made me laugh so much because they kind of look like Ursula from The Little Mermaid.
Did you see the animation panel? Where they're like showing off the little rogue animations?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it was so cool.
Yeah, the animations in general look really, really cool. There's very little that, when it was revealed at BlizzCon, that I didn't look at and just go, you know what, this is really cool. This is really awesome to see this. Because it's definitely content that we wanted to see forever. Like, people were thinking that, Legion was going to be the South Seas expansion. So whenever we're finally getting the Ocean expansion, we're going to call it, because it's not the South Seas. It's actually more like the Central Seas, sort of. It's kind of how it's looking.
I was going to say, to be fair...
It is the Azerothian Mediterranean. It's what it is. It's just the sea kind of in the middle of everything.
Yeah, I think we've been hearing that it's going to be South Seas through, leaks since Cataclysm. Every expansion since then, it's like, oh man, finally got it.
Well, and I also think to some extent there's going to potentially be a little more water content. Hopefully not to the extent of Val'sharah, and that really failed zone, unfortunately, where just nothing ever got off the ground. But also, the Reigns of Poseidus has recently got a buff to its drop rate, which part of that, it's for getting people rare mounts a little bit faster, but I have to believe that there's going to be a little more water content where having a water mount is going to be a little more important. So I'm hoping that's something that comes with that.
Definitely need to have your Water Strider next expansion for sure.
I mean, I've been using that for years. Wait, I can't fly? Water Strider. Let's go.
Yep.
I mean, and also, that's all great. And part of the biggest letdown, I think, for I was going to say Val'sharah, the water zone, is that really we were expecting like a water raid, a water everything. We had this one dungeon, um, but thankfully, we've got some new dungeons coming out in the new expansion, which should be cool. Hopefully, there are going to be some new leveling dungeons. I think that's one of the things that are coming up.
Yep, we're going to be getting, I believe it is 4 dungeons per side while you're leveling, and then the other 2 are for both, and they're only at max level.
Yeah, and I think like both sides will go good, to get to go into both, but
Honestly, I don't know too much about the dungeons, but as usual, we get them. They're cool. I actually really enjoyed watching the. I don't know if you saw the dungeon design
yeah.
boss design panel.
I was there in person.
BlizzCon. They brought in Slootbag, which is really cool. I thought because it's somebody he's a tank. He's intimately knowledged in how fights work. He was in he was Midwinter before he went EU, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, and so like he's somebody who's been top end raider. Bringing somebody like that into a boss design group was something I thought was really cool about BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like to be honest, we didn't learn that lot about a lot of things. Dungeons were one of those things we kind of got names, I think. And
yeah, names so much, and then PTR. There've been some Fat Boss had some videos come out for some of the boss testing or how the bosses are going to work sort of videos.
Yeah, and we got to see the dungeon thing, which was pretty cool. Getting to watch how they were thinking about going through one of the fights, the different iterations and stuff. But yeah, there's actually not a lot to go on, really, for the dungeons.
Yeah, there's not too much.
There were actually 2 playable dungeons if you had an opportunity to play the demo, but I don't think many people actually got to play them.
I did not do them. I did not have a group of 5.
I was watching, I think it was Tally I was watching, who was running the Horde one, the Zandalari level, or not Zandalari level, but the Troll Temple. And it looked very interesting. There were a lot of dinosaurs. There were a lot of trolls, so I'm happy. And the only thing that I heard everybody say was, "Oh, good lord, this trash hits really hard." And I thought to myself, well, yeah, it's really. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure it's not even. Maybe it's an alpha, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not tuned the way they want it to be yet. It was really interesting to watch. There was a lot of cool stuff going on. Interrupts were important, and I believe they actually did use CC, and it was actually quite effective. Like they actually needed it for 1 or 2 pools, and hopefully it stays that way because I love actually being able to utilize things like that.
It's always how it is at the beginning of an expansion, though.
It throws me back to the what was that dungeon in Cataclysm? It was oh god, I'm drawing a blank right now on the name, but it was the one where you had to fly around. You actually had the Drake run, like all that. That 5-man. Where early pulls in that place were just really important to use CC.
The Oculus.
No, not the Oculus. That was I'm drawing a blank. It was just above the.
I know the one you're talking about. You're talking about Grimbatol.
Grimbatol, thank you.
You said Tado. Sorry.
Dungeon that early on, and honestly, probably about third to halfway through the expansion, where CC actually really mattered. So that's something that I'm totally cool with. I mean, part of me likes quick dungeon runs, but at the same time, CC being a factor is kind of cool. It keeps the PvP feel into PvE a little bit. But also, you were talking about Troll Dungeons. Was he doing the dungeon, or was that part of the Aldir raid?
Oh no, it was actually part of the dungeon. It was the 5-man.
Okay.
They actually ran to it, went into it. It was actually really cool to watch. The bosses looked really fun. And like I said, there were dinosaurs everywhere. It was so nice. I really enjoyed the dinosaurs.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all the raptors and all that.
Yep, there were lots of raptors.
Speaking of the raid,
yeah. So also, the trolls are kind of coming back with a vengeance. It seems like, right?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. I played the Horde side demo and like Just the whole part is fighting blood trolls, which look really cool. To be fair,
They're very unique
Even
models.
even in the Titans domain, we have some trolls.
oh, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first raid is actually going to be a Titan place.
But also a troll place. It's all kinds of trolls in Uldir. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. I feel like coming into this new expansion, the focus is on faction conflict, which I'm really interested to see how they're going to still keep the faction conflict being the main thread of the expansion, while also having raids. I know that some of their points are to include the faction competition, the faction fight, the war, as the main thread, but also we have to have raids against bosses, and it's really hard to do that in a way where we're fighting a boss that both factions want to fight.
Yeah, and they like kind of explained that you're gonna have different stories for going in there. I'm not sure how they're gonna do it. They did say in the future raids we're probably gonna have like a boss that changes for Alliance and Horde. Like if you're Alliance, it's a Horde member. If you're Horde, it's a Alliance member. It'll be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see having bosses where it's the same boss, maybe it's a different named boss for each faction, but it has the same abilities.
Yeah.
Basically, like Gunship
kind of,
from ICC. That sort of idea.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, that would be. I hope that they do that, but I also hope they do that for one or two bosses through a raid. I'm more concerned that the overall story arc of the raid still fits in where, okay, well, you're all we're hearing is about, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, about war fronts, islands, like all these different points of combat between the factions. But I'm hoping that the story arc for the raids are going to be they're going to be faction agnostic. So it doesn't matter what faction you're on. Maybe a couple of fights change, but for the most part, you're following a story arc other than just the battle for the Alliance.
Yeah, and one thing I'm kind of worried about, to be completely honest, is they've tried the Alliance versus Horde angle before with Cataclysm, and it gets like kind of weird sometimes. They did Miss Pandaria too, but not as much.
Pandaria, I felt like Pandaria had more faction balance, whatever, in the Krasnodar Wilds. What was in Kata? What was the faction conflict?
It was mostly through leveling, to be fair, because like when you're going through Eastern Kingdoms and.
That's true. I do remember that Twilight Highlands had different quest lines, and there was some differing quests there. That's true. Yeah, you're right. That's true. I forgot about that.
Well, it was mostly towards the beginning when they started, like, when they announced it, they're like, oh, this is going to be a story about the Alliance and the Horde fighting each other. Maybe I'm thinking of Miss Pandaria. I might be thinking of Miss Pandaria.
Well, no, I think you're right about Cataclysm, that was a thing that was going to happen. Also, Jade Forest for Miss Pandaria was the same thing. But as soon as you hit the second zone, like, it was just gone. Like, for Mist. And then for Kata, it was, there was nothing until you hit the last zone, which frankly you could skip if you played the game right. And it was so back on the back foot. I'm hoping with an expansion called Battle for Azeroth that they find a way to make the confrontation meaningful and impactful, but also the raids make sense, like story-wise, like lore-wise.
Right.
Because, I'm a big lore kind of. I'm not a huge lore nerd. Like I don't know about all the books and all that, but in-game lore, I always want it to make sense. And there have been a lot of times where it doesn't make enough sense, and so I'm really hoping that they do it right.
Or a lot of times they try and push off some of the lore to the books and stuff. And it's like, why? Now I gotta buy those.
The lore of the books is fine, like as long as they follow a thread, like a common thread. And so I feel like, I just want the story to make sense. That's all I really want. I don't want Warlords of Draenor, where it's like, hey, we're going to invent this weird random timeline mechanic to make Garrosh seem a little less evil, but then also reference the war crimes book, um, and have Thrall kill him off screen unless you do this one particular quest line. Like, I get it. Like, you want to make the story fit, but those storylines, in particular, the storyline where Thrall and Garrosh face off, that should not have been a quest line. That should have been a raid story. Like it, I just hope they never go back to that horrible expansion again. And do what they did with Legion. I feel like Legion really told stories very well. I feel like all the content made sense. And I hope they continue that in the future. And I'm just a little nervous that an expansion about the faction conflict, if it's only about the conflict, it's going to have terrible raids. There has to be something else going on. And I just hope that the raids fit into the thread so that both storylines are properly represented and neither feels neglected.
I really believe that the thing to keep in mind is that every expansion we have had since, we'll say, Kata, with the exception of later parts of Kata raiding, the raiding has definitely been the focus of most of the devs' attention, from what I can see. I know people complain about PvP pretty constantly since, Mist was really good. But Warlords and Legion, I know all I hear about are complaints left and right. So I don't think they're ever going to go and neglect raiding, because that is, I believe, what keeps most people going. So I don't think we have anything to worry about there.
Yeah.
I also think it's, in older expansions, it's been about the raid experience from a mechanical perspective, but less about the story sometimes. And they did such a good job tying the story into the raids that I hope they keep that up. Also, the quest lines, this expansion in Legion, the different zones, the quest lines of all the different zones, they were more rich and complete, I feel like, than a lot of other expansions have been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you quest through a zone, you feel like you really understood what's going on, like the Valjar Stormheim zone. You actually understand Helya. Like, you actually feel bad for her a little bit in the storyline. And then on the flip side of that, you go to the complete opposite side of the map over to Ashara, or not Ashara, Asuna. And you've got the Court of Ferondis, and you've got Ferondis, who is this just villainized character of his people because, he thought he was doing the right thing. Because Queen Ashara just kind of made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and it's just that whole thing. But at the same time, I feel like for the first time in this game, we've really started to learn a little bit about Queen Ashara.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to the fact that after Eldir is done, we're gonna have her be a part of the next raid.
Bringing it right back.
Like, we've had a zone called Ashara since vanilla, and we've had nothing to do with her until now.
And it's gonna be that's pretty much, I think, all we know about that raid is she exists.
Right, but I'm glad
they're
she's gonna be a story. She's gonna be a POV character, so to speak. Game of Thrones terms.
I'm a little disappointed she's coming in that early in the expansion, because she's hyped up in like the books and stuff to be like as strong as like Archimonde and such. But still, at least we get to finally see her. She finally exists. Well, I got quiet there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, I had something happen on my end. Yeah, no, it's good to see that she's going to be coming out and actually being a character going forward.
Do we even know anything else about the raid? Do we have anything more to say?
Nope.
I think that's about it at this point.
I think that's going to be a reoccurring theme for this BlizzCon, by the way.
Well, I mean, honestly, this expansion is talking about the launch date for BFA is before the end of 2018. So there's a really good chance that we're going to have another BlizzCon. Maybe I hope that the expansion comes out sooner, but there's a chance we'll have another BlizzCon before the expansion launches. Or at least, we'll have a BlizzCon coming that will explain what's coming in the expansion just after it launches, going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just have to kind of see. Like, from what we've learned so far, I think it's still quite a ways away.
Yeah, we've definitely got 6 to 9 months at least of Antorus, which is not coming for another couple of weeks yet. They want it. The last tier is always long. I think they want it to be shorter than it has been in the past, but it's probably still going to be at least 6 to 9 months. Would be a pretty reasonable time frame for a last tier boss.
On another note, we do know for sure that world quests are staying, and emissaries as well.
Which I'm fine with that, honestly. Yep. Personally, I have done 9,524 world quests account-wide with expansion. It's something that I've done. It's something that I've, for the most part, enjoyed doing, and have continued to do over time. The rewards have felt fulfilling enough to do them. It's not just that I want to get an achievement done. It's just they're worth doing. So I hope that going forward, we'll get Azurite eventually, which I'm assuming we're going to talk about later. The rewards from those quests have historically been very worth doing. They're not dailies, and that's the biggest thing, is that it's not the Pandaria just 25 more world quests, like red-eyed panda clicking. That was the thing back then. That was when you had to do it every day if you didn't do it every single day. And so one of the things they've talked about is they want more systems like emissaries where you can have several days banked up for a lot of activities. Personally, I hope that the heroic once a day thing becomes an emissary. Like it's a swinging scale where you can do a bunch of them one day and then take some days off.
Right.
The more systems they can put on that kind of thing, I'm all for it.
What do you think, Gatsu?
Most definitely. I mean, the biggest thing is making sure that we're not, forced to play every single day, because a lot of people can't do that anymore. Right. Player base is matured, and by matured, I mean gotten older. Never want to say anybody's, grown up or anything, because that's a crazy idea.
I'm grown up.
I'm 35. I understand. Like I don't
Wow.
play. I do play every day, mostly, but it's always in the context of real life situations. Some days I have a lot of hours to play. Some days I have like 10 minutes.
Right.
So so on that, like one of the new Argus systems that I'm cool with, but also it's a little unfortunate, is the invasion points. Right. Invasion points are cool. One thing I like about the invasion points is that they're completely random. You don't know what you're getting into. You don't know. You maybe know what zone you're going into, but there's a bunch of different variations on what's going to happen once you get there. And they reset every 6 hours. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
But so that's a source of pretty constant AP if you want to play a lot, which I'm comfortable with that. On the flip side, though, the randomness of those kind of brings me back to the idea of the mop, the Pandaria and scenarios. Like we had these really cool scenarios, a bunch of different scenarios, things played out different ways. If we could perhaps, let's just say, take those scenarios and then implement the randomness of the current invasion system, we might get this, let's call it an island of opportunity, where some of you see where I'm going with this. the new island expeditions. Like I'm really excited about these.
Yeah, it's one of the like major things they seem to be pushing right now with the expansion. It's
And
pretty
I
cool.
like it. I especially like that it can be PvP. So you've got this great random situation where you're not really sure how to. You have to, as a group. I'm sure it's totally puggable, but if you have a team of people that are all talking, it becomes very quick and goes really well, and you can burn through them really fast, and probably get a lot of the new Azurite thing very quickly. But also there's some new AI coming in, which I'm scanning real quick. I don't see that we're going to talk about it later. The new AI is going to be pretty cool, where the NPCs actually become a little more challenging. So you can decide to deal with the challenging AI or just go full PvP and have another group farming the same island. Um,
Mhm.
I
I'll
think
be
it's going
very
to be
impressed if they can get some AI that does something more than just, oh, look, this is off CD, do this. A little more thought
well.
put into
One
it somewhere. That'd be
one
interesting
one
to see.
part of that is there's an NPC that's coming called Sneaky Pete, who is a rogue that stealths around and waits until you're in combat to attack you.
That's
Which,
beautiful. It's
yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
Like I'm looking forward to this kind of that level of AI. I'm hoping that it they do it right, because that could be really cool. Like
mhm.
I'm not a PvPer myself. I'm not like it's not a big thing for me, but I would love to see them implement that sort of NPC.
I agree. And just in general, like the way it's gonna generate basically a story each time. They made a big deal about that. It's not just like procedurally generated; it's a story. Yeah, it's just kind of cool.
It's like a choose your own adventure book
Yeah, and
for anyone
depending,
old enough to remember those.
I do actually, and I'm only 25.
Oh, good. I'm glad those are still a thing.
I mean, they were when I was a kid, but yeah, like it sounds interesting. I'm interested to see how often we have to do them. I don't play nearly as much as I used to outside of raid times, so
I feel like the island expeditions are going to be the new like heroic dungeon cooldown. Like that's what everyone's going to do every day.
I'd be fine
It's
with that, especially
they'll
if
do
we
one
can,
day.
like, especially if they keep like the banking it up and
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say also. I hope that they implement the emissary system where you can do like there's one a day, but there's a 3 day queue or something like that. Where you
yeah,
can just like every 3 days you can just burn out all of this content.
It looked like they
And
were
I'm
pretty
and I'm
happy with
fine
the
with
way
it
that
being
was set up.
hard to burn it out in a day. Like I'm like if it's difficult to do all of the things you can do for 3 days in a day, so you have some options about like deciding which systems are the ones you want to follow. Um, and if you play all the time, if you're a no lifer like I am, you'll just do them all every day, and
mm,
they're all worth it. It's not worth it to a point, because it's like farming artifact power now. Like you want to farm it out and get some bonuses, but eventually there's a diminishing return that makes you decide to stop.
mm.
So I hope that they play that balance well.
So I don't think I actually threw it down in here, but we were actually giving a confirmation that there are going to be no more legendaries next expansion.
Well, I mean, there's one.
The current
there's
legendary system will not
there's
be continuing into the next expansion, is a more accurate
Yeah,
statement.
we're gonna get one now. In
thank
fact,
God.
yeah,
Honestly, I'm very happy with the changes here. We're gonna get the necklace that we just put points into, and so I've mentioned Azurite a couple of times, but it's I'm still a little skeptical on how they're gonna implement the system, but I hope that they do it well. And I
yeah,
like the fact that your progress. Everything you do gives you progress, and your progress now though is spec agnostic instead of being all right. Well, I want to specialize in this one spec and deal with it.
exactly.
I'm somebody. I'm a mage. We've talked about this already. But I play frost and I play fire. I play both specs, and I'm currently dealing with the Netherlight Crucible, which is arguably a cool mechanic. I think it's a little annoying because I have to play 2 specs. I mean, currently, I've farmed a lot of AP, and I played a lot, and I don't want to have to feel motivated to do a lot of side. Just the current amount of things you have to do outside of raiding to be competitive in raiding, I think, is a little too high. I'm hoping they can find a balance in the middle somewhere with the new necklace and Azurite.
Yeah, they made it kind of clear that they're not really going to do artifact power. So
I mean, our artifacts are getting a send off. Like, there's going to be a line that explains why our weapons go away.
I mostly meant like they're not going to do something like that. So you're going to get about the same amount of Azurite throughout the whole thing. I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Right. Well, so my concern is catch up. So
exactly.
if we're not going to get an artifact knowledge level of mechanic, if I come out and I play a new alt, so I've been raiding on my mage and I decide, well, hey, I'm going to play my rogue or my druid, which are my 2 main alts. You know, I don't want to have to put in 100% of the same work to get the same result. Like, I don't want to come in. I'm more concerned about the fact. So one of the things they've talked about is, depending on the item level of the gear that you're getting, what your Azurite will unlock, you'll need more Azurite to unlock more traits. Okay, that's cool. Let's say I come into BFA in the Argus tier, or the Antorus tier of BFA, like end tier, brand new alt, and then I've got a guild that carries me through like heroic. Let's call it heroic because I'm not going to carry through mythic, but I get carried through heroic 3rd tier raid. Like, am I going to be able to get all my traits on the gear that I get in a reasonable amount of time, or am I going to spend 4 months trying to farm that out? Like, I hope there's a catch-up mechanic for Azurite.
Yeah, they haven't really gone into it, and I don't know. Like, because it does...
I just hope there is one, that's all.
Yeah, as the game is right now, like, it is kind of weird getting billions upon billions of artifact power, when before we were getting, like, 100.
Yeah, but at the same time, a new person, like, if they didn't implement that scaling, you come in late, like, how do you bridge that?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the numbers are kind of ridiculous as it is, and I think a lot of that is how they scaled things. Like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm just hoping they find a good way to balance it. That's all.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely going to be lowering our numbers. That's for sure.
I'm somebody who has 9 max level tunes already. But yes, the stat squish. I am ready for this. I'm in the eye level squish. So that's the thing. We're squishing the item level as well. The first time we had a stat squish, it was because the system couldn't handle the numbers we were seeing. This time, it's purely cosmetic. So, it's an interesting thing that we're doing.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because they didn't really like announce it. People who just went to the demos played it. Was like, wait a minute, my item level's 150. So.
Yeah, the bosses in the dungeon they were doing, I think we're dropping item level like 180 here, and your tanks had around 35k HP, I believe. It was a really unusual. It was very jarring for people that are used to seeing a 12 million HP bear, for instance.
Yeah.
Very big jump.
Like the item level 150 is about where you were in Burning Crusade. The health is higher, I think, but
I think Sunwell was around 170 or 160, something like that.
Yeah, BT was 151 if I remember correctly. I could check, but But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't mind it. Stat squishes are stat squishes.
Yeah, it's just, as much as they feel like the numbers become irrelevant as they get bigger, to me, the progression of numbers, it's really hard to think about the fact that, end of ICC, I was playing 13k DPS, and then we had a stat squish. and all of a sudden, like first tier raids, I was doing less than I did in ICC. So it's good for new people. The numbers are small, they're understandable. But for people that've been playing a long time, it just sort of feels like, oh, we just understand the numbers are bigger. We don't really need the squish.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think so. The first stat squish was a systems issue. They couldn't handle numbers larger than 2 billion.
I remember the game
So
blacking out.
that's why during Siege of Orgrimmar we had so many heal mechanics. They couldn't deal with the bosses having more health, so the boss had to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the issue is that we're running into the item level 1000, and once you crack a fourth digit, item level changes just seem so small. So to make item levels meaningful, they really need to squish the item levels. And that's the reason now that they're doing it, is just to squish the item level, not the numbers themselves.
Yeah, plus they're pointing out, like, there's one thing that's really funny. I don't know if you guys have leveled recently, but when you're going from Outland to the not Outland
Northrend,
you actually get items that are like 20, 30 item levels higher, but they're worse items. That is a thing that happens.
It's very awkward.
Well, the stat balance, because they there's some issues about int or primary stat, secondary stat, whatever. That throws it off.
So anyway, oh yeah, speaking of Battle for Azeroth, Teldrassil gets burned down.
Yeah, apparently wood is hot. It's so hot right now.
Yeah.
We don't really know too much about what leads up to that. Part of me, honestly, and this is totally off script, but we don't have a script, but one thing that's happening is that Wrathion is currently standing with the Alliance in the new city. Like, if you look at PTR, Wrathion moves to be kind of standing with the Alliance instead of the Horde. I'm not sure that he didn't start the fire. I mean, I think Sylvanas is supposed to have started the fire, but I'm not sold on it yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was always burning since the world's been turning, so.
Yeah. So we'll see the reasoning behind that. Part of it, though, Sylvanas is if Sylvanas did start it, we have to remember that Sylvanas is desperate at this point. She's undead. She's facing her real death, and she's been facing it for an expansion. And that's why she was trying to make a deal with Helya during that quest line. So we don't really know what to expect from her. On the flip side, her sister is aligning with the Alliance. And, her sister, who she's not exactly been secretive about the fact that she wants to make her undead as well.
Yeah, and make her children undead.
Right. I can see that being a motivating factor for burning an Alliance city.
Yeah.
We also don't know which happens first. We don't know if the Battle of Lordaeron or Teldrassil is first or second. We don't know which happens first.
It is currently heavily implied that Teldrassil was burnt first, but we actually don't know, and it could just be Blizzard giving us a hard time. They like doing that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, the Alliance take Lordaeron back.
Or do they?
Well, the ruins and the Undercity, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and that's where the cinematic is, and it is fucking amazing. That cinematic is probably one of the best I've seen in this game.
It's a really good, just the huge battle, and they made that giant diorama of like trying to find your own tune. Like
I was in it. That. I found my tune. I might put a picture of it with this video.
Nice. We should definitely edit it into the cast.
Yeah, because that found me.
Yeah, so we'll see how that battle plays out. I'm curious, especially with Warfronts the way they are. I can't imagine that one of the Warfronts is going to be at one of the major cities because we've won or we've lost. I don't know how much of an offensive the alternate faction is going to make because we've already claimed victories. So the Alliance claims a victory over Lordaeron, and the Horde claims victory over Teldrassil. So I'm curious how the war fronts are going to play out. If they're just going to be like the Horde trying to take it back, the Alliance resisting, how a win or a loss is going to affect what happens in the world, all of that.
I will be really impressed if they actually have it change the world. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like how player characters are in general in the story, where like they exist but not really.
But also we had things like Winter Grasp and Tol Barad where wins or losses actually mattered. And I feel like their plan going forward is for it to matter. So
I hope so. That'd be really nice, actually.
yeah, to a point. As long as it doesn't break gameplay.
I just realized we didn't even have Warfronts marked down on our list. Oh man.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Like with all of these big battles and big changes in the world, we have to kind of think back, and the world, the big wide world of Warcraft has changed so much over the years, and for some of us who've played for a long time, we've got this new thing potentially. It's probably going to be a long time coming. Of these WoW vanilla servers, WoW Classic.
Oh yeah, Classic's coming.
Cool. I don't think anyone expected that. I really don't think anybody did.
So the other part of this is that, moving on from that, because, who cares? New stuff's coming out. The old cities of Silvermoon and Exodar, the ones that are totally broken in our heads, the load screen boss is apparently overpowered and the other factions can't take over those cities. How cool is that?
It's pretty funny, I gotta say. And they agreed. Like, they're just like, well, sucks to suck.
Sucks to suck. More importantly, there's part of scaling that I hate. I hate the fact that my tune's like overpowered and it affects how easily I can kill something. Like I play it and like I should be able to one-shot everything. But they're like, nah, we want to make it a little harder. You have to two-shot everything.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have that.
It's not that big a deal, but out of that comes something. Out of that annoyance comes something amazing, which is old zones scaling the same way that Legion zones scale.
See,
to an extent, like the early level zones are still early level zones. But as you level up, the storylines, you can follow whatever storyline you want. You don't have to follow a specific path. It sucked. It still sucks. You can be level 40 and go through Red Ridge Mountains, and it's meaningful. I love this new system so deeply. I'm happy about it.
I personally have two minds. I think I said this a little bit last time. Like, I like that every zone, for example, in Legion, scales like that. But also, I kind of like the feeling of going back into a zone you've already cleared, and now everything's like extremely weak. You still kind of get that in the old zones now, but like.
Well, I think to some extent though, you still get that. Like it's a little harder, but let's say Red Ridge Mountains, you're level 80 and you decide to go back. It's still being treated as a level 60 zone. You're still one-shotting everything. It just gives a little more flexibility to the lower level zones to people who are playing a non-traditional path through the storylines.
Yeah, and they said
which I'm comfortable with.
One thing they did say, which I'm really excited for, is you can go straight to Northrend or to Outland. Oh my god.
That's one. Like Northern Outland and then Mop Wad. Like those Mop Wad is the biggest for me. If I can get mostly through Legion, through Warlords without touching it, I'll be so happy.
It's so crazy because I loved the Warlords questing the first time. I cannot stand it anymore.
I loved the first zone. Like I loved Frostfire Ridge as a Horde mage. Like that quest story was so good. And also Shadow Moon Valley, the that other end on Alliance. They were really good. The rest of the zones were decent, but they weren't as well developed as the faction specific. And I understand why, because they spent their time on making a faction viable experience, which is good. Like, I love that. And I hope they still carry on that mentality to BFA, because it's all going to be about the faction. So I really hope that they keep the storyline solid.
Yeah, and I will never go to Outland again. Finally.
I will probably just avoid it like the plague. Just go right to Northrend, do my 3 or 4 zones there, and be done.
Yeah, it's still going to be about leveling optimization, but at least you have some choice. Because those zones, especially with heirlooms, you burn through them so fast.
Oh, and
the storylines are already disjointed. We might as well have some choice.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that zone scaling is actually coming before BFA. It is coming in 7.3.5. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
I'm actually hoping that 7.3.5 drops on the Antaurus launch in November 28th.
I might, but they also did say they were going to.
It'll probably be longer, but I'd be happy with it hitting then. I play a lot of vaults. I don't play so many low level tunes right now, but in general, that's a feature I'm looking forward to. I'm glad that it's not an expansion feature. It's just something they're going to give us.
Speaking of expansion features, PvP servers are going away forever.
Thank God.
That's a little bit misleading.
So I currently raid on Sargeras, which is a horribly imbalanced PvP server. Same server as Arlaria here. But we rarely see Horde. But at the same time, I really like, for most players in the game, I didn't want to transfer to this server because it was a PvP server. But I found out that it's an Alliance-dominated PvP server. So I was okay with it, and it's been fine. But occasionally, I get into cross-realm situations where...
and whatchamacallit.
Well, I just get into places where, when the servers are slow, they start sharding us. And on the shards, you start getting other servers. And then you start getting huge crowds of Horde players farming, let's say, the Stormheim quest hub. And, we start losing those of us who are on a PvP server because it's not really a PvP server, get sad. So I'm really liking the toggling system. It takes away the server imbalance of PvP, PvE. People who want to PvP can PvP. And frankly, are probably going to be more balanced than they are now, because everybody there is there because they want to be.
Yeah, and I mean, being on Sargeras, we're specifically sharded with Mal'Ganis and Illidan.
And Tichondrius, and...
Yeah, it's like, no, why?
So, for the people that care, most of the people that are salty about it are the people who like being on a PvP server because it's imbalanced. Mm-hmm. And now their life is going to be a little harder. But for the general populace, for the most of us, we're going to be a lot more happy about it. And I'm personally very happy with the change.
So, the next feature they announced, I want to ask each of you before we go through the list of what all's there, what allied race are you guys most excited for, if any?
That's tough. Elf race, probably, for Alliance. But, personally, in the back of my head, I'm more of a Horde-oriented person. I prefer the storylines of Horde. So, but for Alliance, Nightborn, probably?
Yep. What do you think, Gats?
I'm actually really excited about the Dark Iron Dwarves. I love dwarves.
They're pretty cool. And also,
I do like, so, not as a mage, but just as a general storyline, I love that the Dark Iron Dwarves are going to be an Alliance race. Because that whole zone was always an Alliance-focused zone, Like storyline, I like their alliance race.
Yeah, I think I'm actually probably most excited about the Void Elves. But it doesn't matter because none of them could be demon hunters. So
Well, none of the new races are going to be demon hunters at all because they were outside of Illidan's influence.
Yeah. Wish I could just train one. Be like, you're my disciple now.
See, I think that's Illidan's job, and Illidan's staying forever somewhere.
Hey, spoilers.
Spoilers. Come on.
Yeah, Illidan's. We don't know exactly yet. Even in the post, like we've got a cinematic, but we don't really know what's going to happen for Illidan.
But yeah, so the other ones we're getting are the High Mountain Tauren. We're getting the Light Forged Draenei, which cannot be monks. One of our tanks is really angry about that. And then Horde is getting Nightborn. Alliance is getting the Void Elf, which is basically just a Blood Elf in Alliance. And then there's Dark Iron Dwarves and Zandalari Trolls.
The trolls are pretty sweet. I'm actually very intrigued to see what a good chiropractor can do for a troll. I really am.
Yeah, and also orcs are going to get a button to get that too.
It's that too on orcs. I had not seen that.
Yeah, they announced it at
It was during the QA.
the QA and also the animation panel. They brought it up. Like, it sounded like a joke because, like, you guys want upright orcs? We'll give you upright orcs. And it's like, is he joking or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, the
We can give
upright
it a
part,
toggle.
that made sense. Tattoos, though, I hadn't seen that.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Nice. I mean, I'm way in favor of any customization of your character.
Yeah.
You know, I made a couple of goblin females just because of one of the slash jokes. You probably won't need to say what that joke was. It was the one was like, "Oh no, I'm a free spirit. I don't want to be tied down." Oh, you meant that literally? Yeah, I'm totally into that.
Oh, yeah.
So I made a couple of goblin tunes named Bargain, whatever class, Bargain Totem, Bargain Magic. Which I was pretty happy with them from a class fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I actually transferred my original hunter to be a goblin, and I loved it. Oh yeah, goblin and working are getting new things eventually.
Character models is what you mean by things.
Yeah, it's not 8.0. It's 8 point something.
Yeah, I mean,
there's .tm.
For the most part, they've been doing a really good job on the models, doing new animations, and I've been playing Fire Mage a little more recently, and just kind of seeing the new spell animations are pretty cool. So I'm glad that they've been reworking that and reworking the models and everything else.
I've been playing my Shadow Priest and the same thing. Like, some of the animations look so good. The one to go into Void form is so fucking cool. And Warlocks are getting theirs soon, trademark. And also, they did say that when they redo the Worgans, the Worgan female is not going to have a Chihuahua face.
That's good.
Hallelujah.
It only took them 6 years.
Is it only 6 years, really?
Yeah, if you guys actually remember during the beta of Cataclysm, they had a different face.
And it looked much better.
Yeah, at the very end, they changed it to Chihuahua face. It's pretty great. So yeah, I think that is pretty much everything that happened for Warcraft. Like, we did not learn anything about classes. We didn't get any kind of release date, which is understandable, but we didn't even get like a release year.
They are saying late 2018, so it's not going to be. It's going to be a while, but it's going to be a reasonable date. Hopefully, we don't have another, 15-month HFC tier.
Yeah.
I know that is definitely the thing they are trying to prevent from ever happening again.
Yeah, but every time it got worse. So we'll see how it plays out.
If nothing else, we'll make plenty of gold selling mounts.
That'd be fun. Like, honestly, I'd be fine doing more weeks if we can sell mounts for like $1 million a piece.
That's what we were
That'd be
doing
cool.
towards the end of HFC, right? It was close to $1 million.
Yeah, we sold a bunch. Well, we were selling heroic clears, not really mounts.
Oh, were we selling? No, we sold a couple of mythics.
I don't know, we just had a lot of people that needed mounts. I forget if we actually sold them.
I mean, we
You
didn't sell that
guys,
many.
you guys gave a bunch of mooses away, myself included.
Yeah,
Well,
we did
not-
moose for free.
We're not talking about mooses. We're talking about the mythic mounts. But anyway,
Oh,
that's not part of
my
this
bad.
podcast.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, sorry.
thank you for including me tonight. It was nice to be a part of this.
Mhm.
And I hope the tiers to come go really well.
I'm fairly certain that everything we're seeing so far from BlizzCon, from the BFA panels, from just everything we've seen so far, everything looks really good. We just know nothing yet. Sure, we'll get it. It's just going to be quite a while until we get any kind of answers.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
On
Well,
the bright side, we have plenty of time to play Terrace.
Yep.
And complain about how long it'll be till the next raid tier.
So, any final thoughts, you guys?
I like tacos. They're pretty tasty.
Tacos are legit.
Yeah,
Good call. Good call.
I might
That's all
go
I
get
got.
some right now.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yep.
Glad to be a part of this
Yeah,
podcast.
thank you for coming on.
And
Yeah.
I hope the listeners don't hate me.
Don't worry, we got like 2. So
Oh, everything will be fine, I
I'm
promise.
sure you'll at least get a 50% approval rate.
Better than,
Hmm.
no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
Higher than the president's. Catch you later, guys!
Bye.